Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to another bonus episode of the Bearded Bible Thinker. You know what? I really love doing that bonus episode stuff because this is, I think, only my second one, but I'm enjoying it because I get to kind of do what I want. There's no scheduling, there's no expectation for me to get it done on Wednesday, that kind of thing. So really just whenever something comes up and I have time to yak about it and post it, it's just there. I enjoy life like that more. Everything else that I have to do is, you know, Tuesday at this time, Wednesday at this time, Wednesday at this time, Thursday at this time, Sunday at this time, and this time, and this time. So it's really fun to just have something that's extracurricular, kind of, that's not on a schedule. Okay, Voddie Baucham. Okay, this is a trigger word for some of you, apparently. So I have a while back. I didn't look at it. A while back, I did a video. I'll say it this way: Voddie Baucham was having some heart failure stuff going on. Some major could have died easily. Things going on with his health. And I decided to do a video about it because I read the story. One, I just wanted more people to pray for him, right? He's a brother, and I began that video by talking about maybe if you didn't know who he was, right? I began by introducing sort of who he was. And I used some fanciful language like giant in the Christian world and dynamite Christian, some other thing, whatever, right? So like I'm describing this guy who is a good preacher. He's a theologian. He's a president, I think, a president of Bible College and Seminary in Zambia, and obviously goes on sort of a speaking tours at different conferences and things like that in the States once a year. So anyway, I began with this introduction of him, and it began with a lot of praise, right? And the video, I'll just say the video did really, really well. Far better than any other video that I've done. My main audience is a few of the people from my local church that I'm pastoring. So that's really the main gist of the people that listen to this. And so 12 over 12,000 views on this video. But here's what frustrates me. Okay. So if you watch the first video there and you commented below the first video, there's at least a chance that that I'm going to frustrate you today. Okay, and I don't really care. So we there the video. Okay, if I had to give a one-liner to the video, it would be: here's a guy, a Christian, who is suffering through something that is terrible, not unlike what many other Christians go through, suffering through something that's terrible, but suffering correctly and well. That was the point of the whole video. That was the point. That he was dealing with some congestive heart failure or something like that, something that was going to stop the guy's heart, right? Like he was dealing with something very life-threatening. He was trying to get from Africa to the Mayo Clinic without dying on the way, which almost, yeah, I mean, he was cutting it close, right? So the whole point of that video, okay, was to just give a shout out to how he was handling that suffering, right? As he was typing these kind of requests for prayer or these updates, that kind of thing, he didn't know if he would get to type another update or not, right? Like this was a very dire situation, and yet he was sort of in different moments. He was praising God. He was as publicly as he could, and he has a pretty big reach in the world, a lot larger than mine is. But as publicly as he could, he was praising God. He was trusting God out loud. He was, so that was really the point of the video, right? And I almost immediately, when that video began to blow up and people began to comment on it, the comments were about how bad his theology was, or that there was one attack. And forgive me, man, I'm not a typical YouTuber that gets all these views and lives it and gets paid to do it, and so I don't read all the comments. I mean, I see them briefly. Especially if it looks like a trolling kind of thing, I don't pay any attention to it. But there were automatically started to talk about, oh, he's a cessationist, oh, he's this, oh, he's that, oh, know who you're talking about, and blah blah blah. Completely missing the point that I was trying to make with the video, right? And I just want to address something real quick. It is a pet peeve of mine, and it's honestly why I don't care if this channel ever gets big or not. In fact, I don't really want it to, honestly. But the amount of childish, ridiculous, infant level argumentation and hatred and backbiting and gnawing at one another and arguing and fighting and wrestling in the weeds that goes on below the average YouTube video among Christian people who claim to know Christ, who have literally nothing, like, get a job, right? Literally nothing better to do than to argue and fight with one another about most of the things that get fought about online are stupid. Okay, most of the things that get fought about online are childish. They're I mean, if you're making a valid theological point, don't hear me talking about you, right? But frankly, if you were making a valid theological point, you're probably not offended by me talking about this, because you already know that I'm not talking about you. If you have that, some people, this is a big pet peeve, man. It is a big pet peeve of mine. The whole world is watching Christians and how we act and how we love one another or choose not to love one another, how we go about loving the world, how we go about proclaiming the gospel of Jesus Christ, how we go about doing all of these things. And not all of it. In fact, very few of us actually agree on every little thing, right? I mean, I think that's safe for any of us to say. Very few of us actually agree on every little thing, okay? There was another comment fairly recently about him and spanking children and some other things. And look, I'm not going to say that I agree with everything that Voddie Baucham has ever said, right? I wouldn't say that about anyone except for maybe Jesus and stuff, right? I mean, the scriptures, that's it. That's the truth. Everything else is room for error, right? Including your comments, by the way. And my videos. All right. So, but I just, it was frustrating because the entire point of that video, okay, the entire point of that video was to say, here's a guy who is suffering right now, doesn't know if he's going to live another day or two, and he's still praising God and trusting God out loud. And as loudly as he can with all of his platforms, he is saying, God is God and I am not. And whatever happens is going to happen. And the point was just to direct our attention to how good that is. How he was suffering in that. By the way, God, the Mayo Clinic is God uses them as his like miracle hands. Like all these smart people did what they do, and he's doing well now and recovering and back at life. But it was just meant to point out an example of someone suffering well. And the way that all of us should suffer. The Christian, no there is no greater witness from any Christian life than someone who's going through something horrific, and still praises God, trusts in God, says, to God be the glory, says, into your hands I commit my spirit. Whatever you have for me is what it says, the Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord, the words of Job, right? That is the greatest witness any Christian will ever have, because in that moment, more than at any other time, the unbeliever can look at the believer and say, man, why in the world are you still praising him? What about this God of yours? What about this Christ of yours? What about this gospel of yours is so good and so powerful that even on your deathbed, or even when you have a child that's dying, or even when you have this going on or that going on, or even when you've just been fired and you're being foreclosed on or whatever, that even in your dire circumstances, you are praising him? That was the point of the video. So maybe if I would have, next time I know what I'll do. Next time I do a video like that, I'll try to use someone stagnant, like maybe Superman, or something like that. I won't name names of who it is. That way no one will be triggered, or offended. And well, that's not true, because I suppose there would be some other folks who would go, well, Superman, why not Batman, right? Superman's just an alien. Like, the whole thing is something that my sons would argue about, and they're 12 and 10 years old, right? That's my point. If you have nothing better to do with your life than completely ignore the content of that I was going for, and so let me qualify this. Corrective criticism is a good thing. Everybody needs that. We all need, iron sharpens iron, right? But there's so much assuming, and I'm not gonna. I struggle with this too. Everybody does, right? But there's such an assumption out there that that I know something you don't, right? And that our. Let me say this, okay? This is the main thing that I wanted to talk about. Voddie Baucham, okay, is a trigger name. For some, he triggers giant of the faith, right? For some, he triggers, oh, that book, Fault Lines, good book. For some, he triggers, oh, that book, Fault Lines. How could anybody read such trash? For some, he triggers, it's a trigger word at this point in history, if you're a Christian and you know who that is, right? And I would just love to live in a world where Christians at least pretended for a while that they were Christians and that they knew the Word of God and they acted like it, and maybe when something like that happens, maybe hear the whole video or podcast or clip, or read the whole paragraph or whatever it is. Maybe take in the whole thing. Say to yourself, okay, what was this about? And is there room for improvement, right? And maybe what are some things I didn't disagree? I did disagree with. Another thing to ask that's wonderful if you're going to be a commenter online, in any fashion, this is Facebook included, but YouTube and Instagram, whatever your thing is, right? If you're a commenter online, something to ask yourself is what I'm about to say has what I'm about to say, or the nature of anything like what I'm about to say, ever been posted in any social media platform and ever changed any heart ever, right? I've literally, not that it hasn't happened. I'm not going to say it hasn't happened, right? And if you know of an instance of it happening, I don't even want to know. I don't care, okay? So don't even worry about commenting below, okay? But I'm sure that it's happened, but I've never heard of it, and it would happening so that someone like me posts a video about someone like Voddie Baucham and suffering well in the moment, right? It was about one instance, one time in his life doing something that no one could argue is wrong or bad or whatever. He was suffering well, maybe on his deathbed, and all some people could think was, cessationist, Like, man, get over yourself. But second, no one has ever watched a video like that, gone down in the comments and said, "Oh, hey, man, this dude is crazy. This is whack." Blah, 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 blah. And the person who created the video come back and said, "Oh, dear heavenly gracious, you changed my life. I just met Jesus. Thank you." What it does, it just creates more division among believers. It creates more fighting. It makes us look like idiots to the world. Okay, I didn't say one time in that video. I didn't say that I agree with everything that Voddie Baucham has ever said. This video wasn't a claim in any way that he's Jesus. In fact, the video was so much about that one moment in his life and doing that one thing really, really well and as an example for everyone, that I even said, even if you're someone, I even said this in the video, even if you're someone who has heard him speak or watched him in a YouTube video and can't stand his views on this or that, I even said that. Like, even if that's you, so that would have included a lot of people in the comments, right? Even if that's you, put that away for a second and just hear the message of what I'm saying, right? He still is a brother. He still needs prayer. He still is dying, maybe, and is in need of lifting up in prayer. And I think it's, no matter your views on the world, I think it's important for us to pray this way about our enemies, right? I don't. Jesus said, "Love your enemies," right? So even if, okay, I don't believe for a second that Voddie Baucham, even if you disagree with his theology or some of his teaching or whatever, I don't believe for a second that he is your enemy spiritually. Okay, if you're a believer, but let's say he is, right? What does it look like in that moment to love your enemies? To whine like a 15-year-old in the comments, or maybe to go, yeah, he did a good thing here. I don't agree with him, but maybe the best comment could have been, like, he's a cessationist. I keep picking on that one comment. It's the one that I read all the way through, and there aren't a whole lot of those that I've read all the way through. I see the comments roll in sometimes in notifications, and it's like, but he said, but she said, but I said, but blah, blah. It's just people fighting at this point. It's stupid. And I just, when... maybe a good way to say something like that would be, he's a cessationist, or he says this about rearing children, or he believes A, B, C, and D and teaches E, F, and G, and that is so outside of how I see Scripture. In fact, I blatantly disagree with that. I think that it's wrong and it's bad and it's teaching people bad, but this is true, and thank goodness he's suffering in the way that he's suffering right now. And I'll pray for him. Boy, that would have been a good comment to get. But it is what it is. The Facebook, YouTube world, the Instagram, TikTok, whatever, for people who claim the name of Christ, it really creates an atmosphere for people to disprove quickly their faith. I mean, and I don't in any way want to suggest that the people who commented on my video are not Christians. I don't want to suggest that. I'm not suggesting that, okay? In fact, this is a good idea. If you were one of the folks who watched part of this video and got triggered and commented and didn't watch all of it, then you're probably going to comment below on this one and be like, well, I am a Christian and you can't say that I'm not, or whatever, right? And forget completely that I have actually just said, I don't think that you're not a Christian. However, a tree is known by its fruit, okay? So if all you're going to have to show for for your faith, your Christianity, God grief, I think about it like this. My kids, man, do I want to teach my two boys that the right way to respond to something or the right way to live is to spend 2 hours a day whining about things and commenting negatively and arguing about things online you disagree with? It's such a joke. It's a joke. It's a waste of time. You're not changing anyone's heart, anyone's life. You're not accomplishing anything. Most of the comments that I did read aren't even valid arguments in any way. It's not even a valid debate sort of a thing. It's just, well, I disagree with that, and I can't believe you would post about... I cannot count the amount of times that I've seen people, not on my videos, but just in general, comment on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube. I don't really use other ones, but I know Twitter is a cesspool of garbage heap. But people commenting and Christians arguing about different things, and I can't count the amount of times that I just picture God in heaven saying aloud and unable to be ignored, "Get over yourself." Well, I don't know. I know this was kind of a rant more than a bearded Bible thinker post, but if you're a Christian, I'm just going to leave you with this. All right, if you're a believer, if you claim the name of Christ, you spend lots of time in here, and really care about knowing the truth, okay? Man, if that leads you toward continuationism, great. If that leads you towards cessationism, great. If that leads you towards stand in the corner instead of spanking, or spanking instead of count to 5, whatever, man. If that leaves, wherever that leads you, good for you. If it came from here, and it came from your study, your actual care about learning the scriptures study, and not just some other YouTube video that sounded better based on your personality, man, stop the comments. You know, the best thing that could happen with this is if I just stopped getting comments. I'm not even going to ask for good ones, because I think that might be too much to ask. But I think if Christians everywhere would spend a week shutting up in the comments sections and threads, conversation threads on social media networks, we'd probably have a lot more time to proclaim the good news of Jesus Christ. I think that would be really cool. But until next time, I actually agree with Voddie a lot. Bye.